Ahoy shipmates, welcome to the Dits on Wrestling podcast, the Royal Navy's only pro wrestling pod. Probably. And today we have a doozy for you if you have just watched Worlds Collide, or are going to watch Worlds Collide, or it's been a few days since you watched Worlds Collide. This is the DOWPOD episode for you, because today I will be reviewing that very show fresh off just watching it. What a great show it was. So many great matches. The match card itself, before we even went into the event, was insanely good. Like, this is just a pure exhibition show. And I was looking forward to it going into it, and coming away from it, I am pleased, which is not surprising considering it's a morphing together of the NXT brands. You got NXT and your NXT UK, both facing off against each other for one night only, until they decide to do it again next year. But it's been a good day, good evening of wrestling, good early morning of wrestling for me as a UK fan, and so we're going to be delving into that very, very soon. And I wasn't going to do any Royal Rumble predictions. In fact, I was going to drop the Royal Rumble predictions on my YouTube channel, Dits on YouTube. Make sure you go and subscribe to that. But I didn't get around to do it. I ended up doing a Wrestle Crate review instead, which I always love doing whenever I get those. So I didn't do the Royal Rumble predictions. So I'm going to do some quick fire ones on here, because this show goes out on a Sunday. The Royal Rumble is on a Sunday. If you happen to listen to this episode past Sunday, predictions are pointless. So I'm not going to go in depth. I'm just going to give you quick fire predictions. And then if you happen to listen to it after the Rumble, you can go, well, he was right there, he was wrong there. How far off base was he there? You get the gist. So that's going to be right at the end of the episode to finish us off. But before we do get into the Worlds Collide review, I just want to touch on one thing that happened this week that I absolutely loved. In fact, the one really cool thing and one thing that I really dug. The thing that I really dug was Keithley becoming North American champion. That was a great match that he had with Roddy Strong on NXT this week. And in my return episode, my first episode of 2020, I did make a prediction for my 2020 look ahead, that Keithley would win a championship this year. I did not expect it to be this soon. Keithley is our North American champion. What a great match. What a great wrestler. Like, he kind of joined with hype to NXT, then just kind of went into obscurity for a little while, and then all of a sudden, it's just exploded. Like, Keithley is over. Massively over. And I would not be surprised if the main roster were trying to prize him out of Triple H's hands. It would not surprise me if that is happening right now. But I hope it doesn't. I hope Keithley stays in NXT for the foreseeable, because he is a hell of a talent, and he adds a lot to NXT. Now, the cool thing that happened this week, and I'm sure if you have an account on Twitter or Instagram or even Facebook — I'm not on Facebook. If you happen to still be on Facebook these days, I don't know how popular it is. You might have seen it on there too. AEW was shown on a boat this week, on a ship, and I can relate to that. Of course, this is a Royal Navy pro wrestling pod, unofficial, of course. I dug the fact that it was on a ship. I could relate to the fact that it was on a ship. But the cool thing, I mean, that's cool, but the actual cool thing was Chris Jericho's entrance and the entire crowd singing Judas back at Chris Jericho. It was an amazing like visual to see it, and then obviously to hear it. And Chris Jericho was trying to hold it in. He was trying to play the hard man, stay in character, but he got in the ring and he just thought, I'm just going to have to embrace this because this is fucking cool. So yeah, the hands to the ears started going up, and imagine being there. That would have been so fucking cool. But to experience it on TV or on a video on social media, the fact that you were able to still feel that buzz through a video, through a screen, that tells a lot. Amazing moment. Such a cool moment. Now, speaking of cool, what would be cool is if you guys went on to wherever you're listening to this podcast and subscribe to the podcast. You never miss an episode. But whilst you're there, the more important thing is to make sure that you spread the word about this podcast, is to leave a review, is to leave a 5-star rating. Honestly, it goes without saying. Like, it helps me make this podcast better for you. So if you have a review and you want to be honest, go for it. But if you want to just help out the show, spread the love, the more reviews that we get, the more ratings we get, the more eyes and the more ears come onto the podcast through the charting system of Apple, I think. I don't know how it works, but apparently that's what you need to do. So make sure you go and do that. And if you're listening on other podcasting platforms, make sure you follow or like or subscribe or whatever the podcast app that you're using offers as a means to keeping in touch with the show. And also head over to Dits on YouTube as well, where my presence on there is going to be coming more and more over the coming weeks. So make sure you go subscribe to that as well so you don't miss anything on there. And of course, all my podcast episodes do end up on YouTube through the power of Spreaker. So if you happen to want to listen to this on YouTube, then away you go. You might already be listening to this on YouTube. And if you are, then hats off to you. But that's my selfish thing out of the way there, but that would be awesome if you guys could do it. Of course, I appreciate everything that you guys give to me in terms of love and support. It's amazing. Thank you. But nobody wants to hear about soppy dits. Nobody wants soppy dits. We want to hear about the Worlds Collide pay-per-view special live presentation. It was awesome. I'm going to delve in right to the start, which is going to be it's going to be breezed over because I didn't watch it. I didn't realize there was a pre-show to Worlds Collide, so I missed it. It was Keithley Ray of NXT UK facing off against Mia Yim. Keithley Ray picked up the win. I don't know how. I haven't watched any clips. I haven't watched the match. I haven't watched anything. But I have seen that Mia Yim put on her best performance since joining NXT, which is good. She needs a consistent level of good performances because, I don't know, Mia Yim to me doesn't click. I don't click with her character. I don't know. There's just something not quite there with her, and I don't know what it is. But if she's putting in good performances, like apparently she did tonight, then it's only going to stand her in good stead. Keithley Ray, on the other hand, I am a fan of Keithley Ray. I've enjoyed her work so far in NXT UK. She's a very, very good heel. So, I mean, she's the champion. Coming into this, she is the champion. I'm assuming she's not the NXT UK Women's Champion anymore, seeing as they've ditched the women's thing, but that's another thing for another podcast. I don't know if she's NXT UK Champion now. I don't know if that's how she was... if that's how she was announced coming to the ring, I have no idea. But regardless, she was a champion going into this match. So, of course, it would have made a big statement for Mia Yim to pin or submit a champion. But realistically, the champion walks out in an exhibition match. So, the right person won here, I think. Now, heading into the main show that I actually did watch, Finn Bala versus Ilya Dragunov. A match that, honestly, was actually probably the top of my hype list of match. I mean, this card for Worlds Collide is phenomenal. This is what you can achieve when you throw together an exhibition pay-per-view, an exhibition special, which is why I'm still lobbying for Evolution 2, because that is essentially an exhibition special pay-per-view, whatever you want to call it. You might include a little bit of story, dotted around it. Like the first one, you had Charlotte and Becky. That was a story that was ongoing. But then you'd have, like Trish and Lita coming back and facing off against current stars and stuff like that. Like, exhibition shows work really well, and I really enjoy them, which is why this one was very much anticipated on HMS DOWPOD this week. But this match, Finn Balor versus Dragunov, was, I think it was the top of my list because I'm a big fan of Finn Balor. I've seen Ilya Dragunov wrestle maybe 4 or 5 times now, and he's a great talent, such great talent. And when I saw him live against Cesaro at NXT UK Takeover Cardiff, and that was it was a great match, so good. It was on a par maybe with the tag match for me. The tag match was really good that night, but Cesaro really brought the best out of Dragunov, and I thought in this case Balor will do the same. And I hate to say that the match disappointed, because I don't think that's the right word. It just didn't live up to my expectation. I enjoyed it. It was a good match, but I just came away thinking I think I hyped it up too much, because it's easy to do with these exhibition style cards. It's easy to build up a lot of hype, and this is what I had for this match. Like, it was good. There was a bit of back and forth, every now and then, but I think ultimately Balor dominated the match in the grand scheme of things. But Dragunov looked great. I personally think Dragunov looked really, really good coming out of this. So he's had a really good showing against Cesaro, and he's now had a really good showing against Finn Balor. And I think 2020, he's going to hit a new height at some point. He has to. He's just recently been involved in a feud with, main event level, stable faction, whatever you want to call them, Imperium. He's just come off the back of that, then into this Finn Balor match. It's early days into 2020, but Dragunov is going places this year. Of course, Finn Balor picked up the victory in the end with the 1916, and I love that he's adopted that as his finisher, because I do like the coup de grace to some extent, but because it looks like it hurts. I don't know how. I mean, obviously he's a professionally trained athlete, and he knows exactly how to execute that move so it doesn't hurt. But ow. Imagine, I feel like being on the receiving of that, regardless of how well Finn covers it up, it's going to hurt. But as a finisher, I don't know. I think it always lacked a little bit of something. It worked when he was a babyface, to be fair. But as a heel, I think the 1916 just works that a little bit. I like the coup de grace as the setup to that. But it's one of those things, like, the coup de grace has been a finish for Bala in NXT for, how long has he been with WWE now? Like 5 years? Maybe? Might be wrong. I'm going to go with 5 years. And that's always been his finisher. And now that it's kind of like a transitional move into that 1916, if people start kicking out of that coup de grace, that stuff annoys me. And I'm going to look at Kevin Owens here as well, who's now adopted the stunner as his finisher. People now kick out of the pop-up powerbomb, which was rare. It's like if Baron Corbin adopted some King-style bollocks as his finishing move, and the end of days became a signature, and people start kicking out of that. I only know one occasion, I think it was Roman Reigns, where somebody is kicked out of the end of days, and then all of a sudden, like, people kick out of it for fun. It would annoy me. I haven't seen anybody kick out the coup de grace yet since he's become a heel. So I will reserve anger for now and frustration. But no, the 1916 is a great finishing move. That's what he hit on Ilya Dragunov and picked up the 1-2-3. Nothing happened after the match. He kind of circled Dragunov as he was downed, and then he left the ring. But it was a good match to kick off the show. I think another match should have kicked off the show, to be completely honest, but we'll get into that. But it was a good match. It was a good opening match. The next match was the Fatal 4-Way match for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, and the title belt itself has undergone a bit of a face change. Now, there was one going around on social media. I mean, this was back when the Cruiserweight Championship first came out. It wasn't the purple strap, it was the black strap, but it was gold plates. Beautiful looking title. This one that they revealed is a black strap. So they've completely ditched the purple strap. It is now obviously an NXT title. It's not under the 205 umbrella. So you have the black strap. It's kept the silver plates, and you've kept, or I don't know if they were already in there, but they now have like purple gems, in the plate. And I actually think it looks gorgeous. To be honest, I really like this redesign of the belt. I actually do think it's literally just a changing of the strap, but it makes a world of difference. It really does. And when you see that, I was kind of thinking, is there going to be a title change? But then I was like, this is an exhibition show, so I expect no titles to change hands. Because, like, Jordan Devlin and, oh God, who else was in that match? You had Garza, Devlin, Travis Banks, sorry. I literally just watched this show. Travis Banks, like, if Jordan Devlin or Travis Banks picked up the win in this match, then they're taking that Cruiserweight title to NXT UK, I'd imagine, but NXT UK is taped. So then how would that work with NXT America? I don't know how it would work. So in my head, I was just like, there's absolutely no way that Devlin or Banks are coming out of it. If Swerve wins, that's fine because he's NXT anyway. He's 205 Live. Both shows air, live. So that's not an issue because they can take their belts and do whatever they want. And Garza, of course, retaining would mean the exact same thing. So I expected Garza to retain, to be honest. Didn't happen. And I'm thrilled that it didn't happen because my boy, Jordan Devlin, is the new Cruiserweight champion. And this match was a lot of fun. I actually preferred this match to the opening match. I know a lot of people might go, whoa, Jesus Christ, Dits, what are you talking about? But no, genuinely, I thought every man in this match had a really, really good chance to showcase what they can do. I thought when they did have those moments to showcase what they can do, like the stuff that they were doing was fantastic. There was a few little errors in the match, but it wasn't distracting. It didn't hamper the quality of the match or anything like that. It was just a fun match. Like cruiserweight matches and multi-man matches, put them together, you've got magic. And Devlin looked amazing, especially that first little stint. I can't even remember the transition, but if you watch the show, you'll know exactly what I'm talking. It was right at the very start. He kind of grabbed one of them, He grabbed one of them under his arm, got the other one, and slammed the guy in his right hand on the back of the guy on his left hand, and then hit a standing moonsault. Like, it was an amazing, amazing little spot that. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of Devlin, especially in the last couple of weeks since I've been catching up on NXT UK, and from when I've seen him live in the flesh. What a talent. What a talent. And I hope this means big things for him. If that means he has to leave NXT UK and go on to NXT proper, amazing. I'm excited. And it could potentially mean he links up with Bala, seeing as Bala trained him. And they're both heels. That'll be not. Some fantasy booking to go on there, isn't there? I would love that. If those two teamed up in some way, I'd love that. Make it happen. Whoever is listening to this who has some pull in WWE, just make it happen. Even if it's a one-off, just make it happen. But Jordan Devlin is the new NXT Cruiserweight Champion in a really, really fun match. Really good match. Then, here we go. DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa against Mustache Mountain, Trent Seven and Tyler Bate. This match was exhausting. In a good way. It was a very, very, very good match. A slow start. There was a lot of respect shown between the two teams. They were kind of posing off against each other. Tyler Bate and Gargano had like a whole sequence together where they were, one-upping each other constantly. And then they shook hands, and then Ciampa came in, Seven came in, again, same kind of thing. They showed a little bit of respect to each other. And I was like, this is a slow start, but I know full well where this is going. And it did go there. Like, Ciampa just exploded out of nowhere, completely changed the course of the match. Like, DIY went on the aggressive offensive, throwing the guys over the table, over the announce tables, and then Tommaso Ciampa doing his back tap thing where he's clapping. Gargano joining him on the ring apron was a great visual. That made me pop a little bit, to be honest. I really, really enjoyed that. And it's just a reminder of how good DIY are or were together. I mean, this is probably going to be a one-off. But it was great to see them back together again. And no turns either. There weren't any turns on each other, which was nice. But the match itself, there was so many great spots, as you could probably imagine. And DIY ultimately picked up the victory in the end. It was a really good match, this. Such a good match. It went for 22 minutes, according to Wikipedia. Believe what you will. But it definitely felt around that amount of time. The right people won. DIY won in the end. And I loved a few little callback spots to their previous stint where they won the NXT Tag Team Championships. They both locked in the submissions. And I thought, if the match ends here, that would be amazing. But that obviously didn't end up being the case. They did their little double team kick thing on Seven, and then bang, 1, 2, 3. But as you could probably have predicted, based on the opening exchanges in the match, there was that respect shown at the end. They all stood tall in the ring, mutual respect all around, and it lived up to the hype. This one lived up to the hype, and I believe that this is the match that should have started the show, because if this started the show, it sets the tone. And I've always said it on this show, tag team matches should, more so NXT tag team matches, main roster not so much, but NXT tag team matches, whether it be NXT UK or NXT proper, started with a tag match, because they're always so fucking good. Case in point, DIY versus Mustache Mountain. Have that start the show, it would have started well. I'm not saying Bala and Dragunov didn't start the show well, because it did. But this would have been on a completely different level. The fans would have been in it, into the event, like, straight away. No questions asked, straight in. And the problem with the placing of this match is that it hampered the next match. Now, I can't actually speak much about Rhea Ripley, the NXT champion, against Toni Storm, because I fell asleep a couple of times during the match. No, there's nothing on them. I just fell asleep a few times. But from what I did see, again, it didn't live up to the hype. I hyped this up in my head a lot, because it's much like the Becky Asuka story at the Rumble. So Becky's quest is to finally defeat Asuka, something she hasn't been able to do. And that's kind of echoed with this match. Rhea Ripley wants to beat Toni Storm. Finally beat Toni Storm. And I expected it to be like a bigger moment. I know Rhea's already the champion. So if Toni was the champion, Rhea was beating her, I'm sure the moment would have been bigger. But Rhea's already the champion. So it was just a case of proving herself that she could do it. But that moment just wasn't there. Toni Storm missed a frog splash. Then we went straight into the finish, and that was it. It just felt a little flat. There wasn't... I don't know. I expected a lot more from this match, and I don't feel that we got it. I feel that we just scraped the surface with these two. They've had great matches before, and I'd say this is probably the worst they've had. And it's not to say that it's a bad match, because it wasn't a bad match. It just did not live up to the hype that I had in my head. That's the only problem. But I guess, the crowd weren't really into that match, but I guess it gave them a little break heading into the main event of Imperium versus the Undisputed Era. Now, I was looking for, outside of Bala Dragunov, this was probably the second, because like the Undisputed Era, I love the Undisputed Era. I don't hide the fact, and Imperium as well. I love Imperium. I don't hide the fact that I love them either. Like, two fantastic stables facing off against each other. It was going to be incredible, and it was incredible. Even with an error, not an error, but something happening that it was out of anybody's hands. Nobody expected it to happen. And honestly, I actually thought it was a work and we were going to see Wolf back out again. Of course, I'm referring to Wolf getting seemingly knocked out. As I think Roddy was about to tag out, and Kyle came in. Or was it Bobby Fish? Bobby Fish came in. They did a double team maneuver. Roddy chopped Wolf in the back of the head, and Fish kicked Wolf in the head. I mean, when it happened live, I didn't really see what had happened. I just thought it was really good selling. But it seemed like Bobby Fish dragged Wolf's shoulder off the mat, and then we got the X from the ref, and I was kind of like, is this a work? I don't really know, but like the camera purely focused on Bobby Fish, so I thought maybe something's going on here. And obviously Wolf left the match, didn't come back, so we had a 4-on-3 situation, and then replays were shown, and I still couldn't see it. It looked like maybe Roddy connected with his chop, but nothing major. And Bobby Fish's kick, it didn't look like it connected at all, to be honest. And then the more and more I've watched it looks like he's clipped him. Maybe in the chin, something like that, but enough to knock Wolf senseless. But I've read on social media, and obviously I take all that with a pinch of salt, that Wolf is going to be okay. It was just a knock on the chin. I think it was Triple H that has apparently confirmed that. You'll probably know more by the time you listen to this episode, whether or not he's okay. But I hope he's okay. But it didn't harm the match in any way, shape, or form. In fact, it probably added to it, because with Imperium coming out on top, which I was not expecting, I thought this was going to be an NXT heavy, like a heavy set show in terms of results. I didn't think NXT UK were going to get a look in. We had Devlin, but I thought that was just going to be the nice little carrot to NXT UK. You can have the Cruiserweight title, but that's it. Did not expect Imperium to come out on top at all. But they did, which was amazing. And Imperium needed a win more than Undisputed Era did, because Undisputed Era are established in the mainstream, whereas Imperium aren't so much. Like everyone in British wrestling, fans of British wrestling know who they are. Everybody who obviously watches NXT UK knows exactly who they are. Diehards know exactly who they are. Casuals, not so much. So I think Imperium really needed this. Walter really needed this. After that Survivor Series and brief moment on Raw. Oh, God. My first mate, Anthony, if you are listening to this, I know that you'll be happy with how Walter was portrayed at Worlds Collide, because Survivor Series and that Raw, the main roster side of Walter was absolutely terrible. He's made his feelings known quite recently in an interview, how much he hated his presentation on the main roster. So it's nice to see him look fucking great on a wrestling show again. And he did. He really, really did look fantastic. Despite being put through a table, Roddy Olympic slammed him through a table, and he still dived up onto that apron, ready to take the tag and just go in and chop the shit out of everybody. Speaking of, in fact, no, I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that little tidbit for my Rumble predictions, but I have a Rumble prediction. No, but the match itself, it was so good. I like the fact, I like it when tag team matches like this are lenient with who gets in the ring. I love the start of the match when everyone's on the apron, so it's just one-on-one, and obviously people just tagging out, all that kind of stuff. But I like it when it hits that crescendo where the ref just doesn't give a shit about who's in the ring anymore. It's just a free-for-all. It essentially becomes a tornado tag. It's I loved it when that started kicking off, and you had just spots going on all over the place. People were looking strong. Eichner and Bartel looked amazing in this match. I'm a huge fan of Fabian Eichner. I don't anymore, but I used to tweet out constantly how good he was back when he was a single star. But Imperium looked great. The Undisputed Era looked great. Adam Cole actually, I think, seemed a little bit quiet in the match. I don't know if I just was paying attention to other things, but it didn't seem that Adam Cole had that big of an impact on how the match went. But regardless, he had his part to play, and everybody definitely played their part. What a great main event, and what a way to end a really good pay-per-view, a really good live show, live event, whatever you want to call it. If I had to give this a rating, I would give it... I'd give it 4 stars out of 5. That's what I would give it. I mean, the Kaylee Ray, Mia Yim didn't watch it, so I can't. That's not applicable. Finn Balor Dragunov was a 3-star for me. Anything around there. The Fatal 4-Way was 4 stars for me. The tag team match between DIY Mustache Mountain, I'd give that 5. Tony and Rhea, I'd give that 2, quite honestly. And the main event, I would also give 5. So it balances out for a 4-star Dits review, if I had to give it one. But no, I have a really, really, really good show. Now, I did pose this question on the Wrestling with Johners podcast. Go and check that out, by the way. I asked the question to those guys because he had Bob Culture on there this week on his latest episode. And I posed the question, would you have rather seen a traditional NXT takeover before one of the big WWE main roster pay-per-views, or are you happy with Worlds Collide? Now, before this event happened, I would have always said I would rather see NXT takeover because I don't know, it always sets the tone for the weekend, and even if the main roster show is shit on the Sunday night, you can at least fall back on the fact that you had a really good wrestling show. I expected that Worlds Collide was going to be good, but it actually ended up being really good. So the fact that we didn't get a takeover hasn't really hurt me that much, to be honest with you. So I will happily accept another Worlds Collide this year if they decide to do it. I would welcome it with open arms. I really would. And it doesn't really matter because in a couple of weeks' time we're going to get NXT Takeover Portland anyway. So really, we're getting 2 shows for the price of 1. So I can't really complain. And speaking of a show before the main roster show, a pretty big one is happening tonight. It's the Royal Rumble. Now, like I said earlier on in the show, chances are you've already watched the Rumble and things have already happened and we already know who's going to, air quote, headline WrestleMania, because we all know that's a load of bollocks. We know all the results. We know exactly what happened. We know exactly why we're disappointed, because let's be honest, we probably are disappointed. There was a little sheet going out on Twitter that I'm not even going to read it out because I didn't read it completely because if this is true, I'm going to be annoyed that I've read it. But I saw the first 3 entrants and eliminations on this card that has been leaked, and not great, to be honest. Not great. So I hope it doesn't go that way. But let me just get the card up here via the power of Wikipedia once again. How good is the feeling that we're entering WrestleMania season? I mean, the last couple of years, WrestleMania has, since WrestleMania 31, I always look forward to WrestleMania. I'm always excited about WrestleMania, but in the last couple of years, it just hasn't been there on the day. I'm usually so hyped up for it. I'm listening to whatever theme goes with WrestleMania that year. I'm listening to wrestlers' theme songs in the car, just constantly on just loud volume. it's just a really, really exciting time for me, but I haven't had that in the last couple of years. So I'm hoping, and obviously this always starts with the Royal Rumble, that this WrestleMania season is great. And we need a good Royal Rumble to do that. And Royal Rumble, I mean, regardless of whether the Royal Rumble ends up disappointing everybody, I think it's actually my favorite pay-per-view of the year, because I just love a Rumble match. And the fact that we get 2 now is even better. Let me just get this bloody card up. It's taking a sweet mother flipping time. Here we go. Right, matches. I like the fact that right now, reading this, the Rumble's tonight, by the way. Not everybody. I mean, of course, they're not going to announce everybody for the Rumble, but there's like 2 spots left in the men's match. So just announce the other 2. What's the point? Let's start from the very bottom. I don't know if any of these are pre-show matches, but we'll roll with it. Andrade versus Humberto Carrillo for the US title. I'm going to have to go with Andrade here. By the way, these are quick fire predictions, so don't expect me going into detail on this, because, like I said, chances are you've already watched the Rumble, so why listen to me harp on? Okay, but Andrade, I have going with this because he's great. Andrade is a really, really good talent. Humberto, wrestling ability-wise, is great, but he lacks charisma for me. Like, I just don't see anything with him. Like, he really needs to work on, like, his character, his promos, obviously charisma just comes naturally to most, but maybe he can fathom some out of somewhere. I don't see Humberto winning this. And if he does, I'll be disappointed. I'll be very disappointed, in fact. Bayley versus Lacey Evans. I think that Bayley is going to win this one. I still don't think it's time for Lacey to lead a division. Character-wise and promo work and all that good stuff, she's always been pretty good at it, but since she's turned face, like, she's on another level now with that. But I think in ring she still has a lot to prove, a lot to learn, a lot of areas to improve in. So until that happens, don't give her the title. So I think Bayley's going to win this one, and I think Bayley's going to win this one because it's going to slowly, in the next couple of weeks, set up her WrestleMania program. So Bayley has to be the champion for that to happen. So I have Bayley winning that one. Shorty G versus Sheamus. I don't really have to say much about this. Sheamus is going to win this one, and he's going to dominate in this one. As much as I like Chad Gable, fucking Shorty G still winds me up. As much as I like Chad Gable, Sheamus is just coming back from injury or rehab or whatever the hell he was doing. It would be wrong for him to lose this. I mean, and by the way, look at him. He's shredded. Nobody can lose against a shredded Sheamus. Shredded Sheamus. That could stick. Shredded Sheamus. Sheamus has got to win this. Surely. That's what I'm going with. A match that nobody wants. Roman Reigns versus King Corbin. Falls count anywhere. Just let this feud die. This has always been the issue with Baron Corbin in the last 2 years. He gets into feuds, which is fine, wrestlers get into feuds all the time, but they never end. They go on and on and on and on and on. This thing has been going on for 3 or 4 months now, and it's boring. His feud with Seth Rollins went on for 3 months more than it needed to, 2 months more than it needed to, whatever it was. It got boring. Don't do it. Move him on to something else. Like, I don't want to see any match between these two. I mean, I'm really glad it didn't end up being like a dog collar match or whatever they suggested it was going to be. I'm happy with a Falls Count Anyway match because it means we might actually get some entertainment. But then I look back at TLC, their match stunk the place out. It wasn't a good TLC match. It didn't even use the gimmick. It was shit. To be honest, it was shit. So if this, please let this be the end of the feud. I cannot see this anymore. It's upsetting to me. Get rid of it. But I have Roman Reigns winning this one because it's Roman Reigns. Have to book him strong for when he. Oh, actually saying that, 50-50 booking, as we know WWE like to do, maybe King Corbin wins this and Roman Reigns goes on to win the Rumble. So watch out for this match when you see it, because if King Corbin wins, Roman Reigns is getting that Rumble win, isn't he? Let's be honest. Then we have Becky Lynch versus Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. Oh, I actually don't think that I can predict this one, because it really could go either way. But I'm purely looking ahead. I'm going to say it's Becky, because I think they're going to want Becky to be champion going into WrestleMania. Whether she comes out WrestleMania champion remains to be seen. But I think they're going to want her going into WrestleMania as the champion. Or maybe they'll have Asuka win, and then Becky takes it back at WrestleMania for a big moment. I don't know. But she had that moment last year, I guess. So, I don't know. I'm going to go with Becky, because I think they've got one eye on Mania. Of course they've got one eye on Mania. If they don't, then what's going on? It's WrestleMania season. You should be looking ahead to WrestleMania. I think Becky's going to win this. I think they're going to want to go into WrestleMania as champion. But I'm really looking forward to that match, by the way. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan in a strap match for the WWE Universal Title. It's got to be Bray Wyatt, really, hasn't it? Regardless of the strap, stipulation, whatever, it's got to be Bray Wyatt. Like, if the Fiend is going to lose, he has to lose on the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania. Surely. If they're going to have him lose, that's when they lose, not at the Royal Rumble. I mean, the Royal Rumble's not a bad place to lose. It's a pretty damn good pay-per-view, but WrestleMania is obviously a bigger stage. So if somebody's going to beat the Fiend and be over as a result, given a push as a result, then WrestleMania is the better place to do it. And the Fiend being champion at WrestleMania makes a lot of sense as well. So Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, is retaining the Universal title. That's a Dits prediction right there. Not a spoiler. I'm not Paul Heyman. I'm not Paul Heymaning it. It's a prediction. The Women's Royal Rumble match, hard to call, but I think it's going to be Shayna. If Shayna enters, it's going to be Shayna. And I think that's who they have an eye on for WrestleMania against Becky. Becky Lynch, champion, versus Shayna Baszler, challenger. That's what I think would be money for WrestleMania. So if Baszler's in, she's picking up the Royal Rumble victory, which would be huge. And it would mean that an NXT star has won the Royal Rumble, so that'd be pretty cool. Now, the men's side of things is a lot harder for me to go with. Roman Reigns seems to be the general consensus that everyone's going with, but I don't want to see it. I'm not against Roman Reigns winning it. I'm not one of those guys who, have got a pitchfork ready to go. It's just that there's so many better options out there. Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre being my first option. To be honest, it's those two. There's a lot of guys on the roster who I'd love to see win, but Kevin Owens or Drew McIntyre, especially Drew McIntyre, because it's time for Drew to shine. And if we got Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, that would be such a good match. It would be amazing. I need that. I want to see it. So Drew McIntyre is my prediction for the men's Royal Rumble match. Now, of course, chances are, as I said, you already know the results. So you can go, Dits, you couldn't have been any more wrong. Or you could go, fucking hell, Dits actually got quite a lot of those right. And I hope it's the latter. Because, of course, that's what I want. I want my predictions to be correct because they're the ones that I want. But I'm really looking forward to the Rumble. Always look forward to the Rumble. But Worlds Collide was a great show as well. So we've been treated to a fantastic weekend of wrestling, regardless of what happens at the Rumble. It's still the Royal Rumble, for God's sake. So either way, just be grateful that you had some good wrestling this weekend. That's all that matters. Good wrestling. But that's really all I have for you guys today, which is crazy because usually I go past an hour. 45 minutes we're at. And I'm ready to stop. How about that? Now you can go about your day and do whatever. You can now go to the toilet, which would be strange. But you can listen to the podcast on the toilet. It's in audio, so you can listen to it on your phone. So you could do that. Or you can go into work, which is a little bit more feasible. Can't really get away with listening to podcasts at work unless you have a really good job. I used to be able to be able to do it when I had my own office. I could listen to my own podcast in there, or podcasts that I want to listen. I don't sit and listen to my own fucking podcast. That's a bit weird. I listen to everybody else's podcast because nobody else is in there. I can just sit in there and listen to wrestling podcasts. It's great. I've lost my trail of thought. Dits, what the fuck are you talking about? Just go home. You're on the go home now. Just send it home. No, honestly, that was a really good weekend of wrestling. Really good show. I really hope the Rumble is fantastic. I really do. My expectations are high. WWE, please meet them. But that is it for today's show, and I'm going to be posting a Royal Rumble review on Dits on YouTube this week, so keep an eye out for that. And of course, I'll be back next Sunday for the next episode of DOWPOD. And don't forget to subscribe to the show on any podcast platform that you use, and leave a review and leave a 5-star rating, because of course it always helps. And it's stuff like that that gets me into the top 100 of sports podcasts in Italy. Yep, that happened this week. It happened yesterday. It happened on Saturday. Amazing. I was number 100. I scraped in for one day. I was in the top 100 sports podcasts in Italy. How weird is that? Amazing, but weird. And you guys leaving reviews, leaving 5-star ratings, and of course spreading the love for this podcast is what achieves such random charting such as that. Amazing. I'm so happy about that. Next stop, Sweden. I have my one fan in Sweden who I'm sure he never misses an episode. He or she never misses an episode. So my fan from Sweden, hello. I should probably learn how to say hello in Sweden, because that would be a bit more personal to you. But regardless, hello and goodbye, because that is the end of the episode. So thank you very much for joining me today on this Worlds Collide review and Royal Rumble prediction show. And I will see you next week on HMS DOWPOD. Enjoy the Royal Rumble. Enjoy your week. Keep it safe.